Hello and welcome to the sixth tutorial in this series, in which I'm going to go through the synchronized edit mode. But first, we're just going to change a few things. So go to units, and then select the enemy unit, the enemy group, and then move it back behind these houses or buildings. Maybe rotate it a bit, so hold down shift and then drag one of the units. Okay, and then deselect them by clicking nowhere, and then drag the waypoint forward just a bit. And then we want to move the player's waypoint inside the base so that he'll know that he has to move inside the base. Like so. Okay, so what we want to do is that we want this enemy group to enter the base once the player has entered the base. So we're going to place another waypoint for this group. So either click on the unit or one of his waypoints, and then double click inside the map. Oh, remember to select waypoints, and then double click inside the map, inside the camp. Just move waypoint, and then change the combat mode to open fire, engage at will, and change the formation to line and the speed to full, which will make them break formation and get there as fast as possible, and change the behavior to aware, because if we change it to combat, they will move from cover to cover. So we don't want that. We just want them to move directly to that position, and once they see the player, they'll automatically go into combat mode. And then click OK, and then perhaps move it a bit closer to the player's waypoint. Okay, so what is the problem here? Well, we don't want this group of enemies to move inside the camp before the player has entered the camp. But right now they'll move to this waypoint, and then they'll immediately run to this waypoint. And that's not what we want. So what we can do is that we can use the Synchronize edit mode. So click Synchronize or simply F5. And then what we're going to do is we're going to drag from their first move waypoint to the trigger inside the camp. And now we've synchronized with this waypoint with this trigger, and what that means is that when they get to this waypoint, it'll turn into wait, and then it'll remain a wait waypoint until this trigger activates. So basically, the game will wait for these two to both be activated before moving on, and then when this trigger has been activated, which happens when the player enters the base because we've grouped it to him, then they'll move on to this next waypoint. So let's just preview that. Oh, actually, now that I think of it, perhaps we should just make the player captive again. So F1 units, and then double click on the player, and like before, this space set captive, tap true. So this space set captive space true, and then preview, because we don't want them to open fire, because we want to see if they actually do what we want them to do. So we've got our waypoint, and they should actually wait when they reach their first waypoint, and we can see that they do. He's standing right there, and so that waypoint has basically turned into a wait waypoint, and when we go within that trigger, they will continue on to the next waypoint. Sorry, I'm getting a bit of lag right now. Okay, so I move inside. Just love fraps. Not. Okay, so if the lag hasn't confused the game, the trigger should have been activated. Okay, let me just see if I can rectify that lag. Just a second. Okay, that should do it, hopefully. So now, as you can see, they're moving into the base. And of course they won't attack me because I'm captive. But they enter the base, and that's exactly what we wanted. But let's just test that, so without the player being captive. So going to the player unit, remember to have units selected, and then remove the scripting statement in the initialization field, and press OK. And let's test it again. So now we have to be careful not to be seen by that group of enemies. So I'm just going to move by the wall. And then we should probably take cover as soon as we get into that base. I'm stuck in a tree, a bush or whatever. Okay, so there we can actually see the unit. Oh shit, he saw me. So the fact that he saw me will actually make them. I mean, it'll make them engage me and not go to the next waypoint. So, for example, if you told an enemy to go from point A to point B, if he meets enemies along that path, he's going to engage them and ignore his waypoints. And then once the enemy has cleared the area, he will then go back to his waypoints. So just to test, let me just place a player inside the camp so they won't spot us immediately, and then move inside and perhaps crouch, and hopefully that guy won't see us. And now they're running, so better take cover. And they should enter the base. Whoa! Shit, they're already shooting. Okay. Well, you get the idea. And you saw before, while I was captive, that it worked, so it's simply because they spotted me beforehand. Oh shit.
Target eliminated. He's down.
Okay, so that's working. And of course you can synchronize waypoints with more tricks, and we could even just synchronize it with the player waypoint, but then it wouldn't, they would wait here until the player reaches the waypoint and not until he's inside the base. But yeah, so let's try to be the enemy group, just so you can see what actually happens. So double click on the leader and then change the control to player, and obviously only one unit can be player, so if you set the player on another unit, the first unit will be set to non-playable. So now we are the enemy group, and let's preview that. I'm just gonna, oh yeah, we don't want that, so actually let's place a group behind the camp so the the unit up here won't see it. Yeah. Okay, so hopefully this unit won't spot us.
Yeah.
So as you can see, this is a waypoint. It's probably a bit hard to see, but it's at wait, and now it changed to move because the other unit entered the base. Okay, so that's it. Let's just change the player control back to this one. And perhaps we should move them over here so they can't see the player. Like so. Or perhaps what we could do, just to, further test on this, is to have them move into a vehicle, and then drive to the base and get out and then engage the player. So, perhaps, yeah, let's just create an empty vehicle. So, select units, double click on the map, go to the empty site, then cars, and do we want some kind of UAC or set or whatever. Yeah, this is fine. And move. Okay, so after they've moved, this first waypoint we basically just use to make to set a few states, like we want them to fire and set their initial formation and the speed and behavior. So we want to place another waypoint on the vehicle, so select waypoints and double click the vehicle, make it a get in waypoint, and then set the order to 1, so before the waypoint that is in the base. So they will first move a meter or a meter or two, and then get into the vehicle, and then obviously we want to synchronize to that waypoint instead of this, so that they will move here, get into the vehicle, and then wait for the player to enter the base. So go to Synchronize, and then drag from the trigger to nothing to desynchronize, because we can synchronize with multiple. So if we just dragged another line, we would have 2 synchronizations. And then drag from the waypoint to the get in waypoint. So now once they've gotten into the vehicle, they will wait, and then they will move to the base. But we don't want them to move just into the base. We want them to move to outside the base, get out, and then run inside the base. So let's just select units and then move the waypoint. You could have selected waypoints as well. We just need a mode in which we can move stuff. Okay, around there perhaps, and then change it to a get out waypoint. Oops, not join and lead, get out. Okay, so now they will get out, and then we want them to oops, wrong edit mode, cancel, and then waypoints, double click inside the base, and perhaps we'll change this to a seek and destroy waypoint. Combat mode to open fire, engage at will, line formation, full speed, oops, aware, or maybe even combat. And then the one that for the get out, we want to change these to no change, no change, no change. Oh, actually we want them to move at normal speed because we set them to limited, so they're probably going to drive pretty slow until they get there. So we want them to drive to the waypoint at a normal speed. Behavior aware, that's okay. Combat mode, hold fire, engage at will probably. Just so if the player runs out, they'll still open fire rather than wait until they get into the base. Hold fire and get okay. Open fire, combat, line full, great. Seek and destroy. So now when the player enters the base, they will drive to the base, get out, and then seek and destroy. And obviously they'll get into the vehicle the first thing when the mission starts, and then they'll wait for the player to get into the base, that is. And then preview. So basically no enemies will come ever. So let's try to fast forward just for half a game time in it, just to make sure. Choosing rain probably wasn't such a good idea. Anyway, they are coming, so we're going to move inside the base, and perhaps if it wasn't for all the rain, which I'm actually just going to disable, we will probably be able to hear them. So let me just make the perfect weather. And just wait a few seconds for them to get into the vehicle so that we'll hear the engine start when we get into the base. Okay, great. So let's move into the base and maybe we'll hear the engine start if we are not too far away. Okay, we didn't, but hopefully they will come. We can hear the engine now, at least I could. And we can see the smoke. So there they come, and they'll stop outside the base, then get out, and then they'll storm the base. So let's just get to cover here and see if we can take them out. And I actually need to get to that waypoint, which is difficult now that there are enemies. Hopefully they are not flanking me and shooting me from behind. So as you can see, they've not entered the base, but I think that's because they actually heard me running, so they've gone into combat mode and are ignoring the waypoints until they've killed me, cleared the area. Okay, it seems like they're flanking me, so what the? Oh well, they'll probably have some weird tactic I don't know about. But at least I got one of them. But as you see, it worked. So, well, that's what we wanted. Now, let me show you another example. And let's just use the same mission, but we'll go up to somewhere else. Probably, yeah, here's the base. Let me just turn on textures, a bit easier. And let's place, go to the units mode and then place a blue 4 US, or if you only got armor 2, obviously USMC, then a man, rifleman, and then make it the player. And then up here make a also blue 4 but an US but an air vehicle, and then choose the maybe MH6J or whatever helicopter you have if you only got armor 2, but something that can transport troops, right? And then make it flying, so it'll start in the air with the engine on. Okay, so now actually let's give this player a few units. So we'll make a group. So simply hold the mouse, hover the mouse on him, press Ctrl C, point somewhere else, and press Ctrl V, point somewhere else, and press Ctrl V, and so on. So we get a few units. Then drag, with the groups selected, drag a line from each unit to the player, or simply drag to a unit, an existing unit of that group, and it'll automatically group to the leader. And obviously, if you wanted someone else to be the leader, we just change the rank. So, for example, if we wanted the middle one to be leader, we just increase his rank, and he'll become the leader. But when they're all got the same ranks, the leader is the one that we dragged a line to. Okay, so we got a group now, and what we want to do is that we want them to move to an extraction point, and when they reach that extraction point, we want this helicopter to come and pick them up. So let's move them back a bit further, and then make a waypoint. So just select one of the units and then double click somewhere in front of them, and make a symbol move waypoint, and perhaps change the description to and you may want to capitalize this, get to the extraction point, zone, or whatever. And this is okay. Perhaps column compact, and remember, if you've got the first waypoint, this will define the default formation, so when we start they'll actually spawn in that formation. Normal speed, we want them to remain in formation. Behavior, aware, and this is okay. Okay, and then perhaps a bit closer, like so. Okay, so what we want to do is that we want the helicopter to move through them. But let's first put a waypoint right in front of him, because we need something to synchronize with. And I don't believe that you can synchronize with a unit directly, so you'll have to make a waypoint right in front of him if you want to synchronize. But obviously, if you don't need to synchronize with the first waypoint, there's no need to place it right in front of him. You can just use one of the later waypoints. But we just do this. So combat mode, never fire, formation doesn't matter because it's just one. Speed, normal, behavior. Now we'll set this to careless because, like I said earlier, if the unit is set to careless, he will not start to engage units, because if you see other units, he will stop. He'll divert from the route, and then start to engage them. And it would take a long time for him to get back to the waypoint where he'd have to pick up the player. So we want to set him to careless, and click OK. And then perhaps move the waypoint a bit closer to him. Okay, and then we want him to move to the player, or to the extraction point. So we place a waypoint down here as well. Just make it a move waypoint. Well, this is fine. Click OK. And then, yeah, that's fine. Now, what we want to do is that we want to synchronize the waypoint of the player with the first waypoint of the helicopter. So select the Synchronize edit mode, and then synchronize this waypoint, the player's waypoint. So hold down the left mouse button, and remember you can zoom in and out while doing this. So while still holding the left mouse button, scroll up to zoom out, and then move the cursor to the helicopter, and then scroll down to zoom in while still holding left mouse button, and then synchronize it, release it on the waypoint for the helicopter. So what we've got now is that when the player, let's start with this one. When the helicopter gets to this waypoint, it'll turn into a waypoint because it has to synchronize with the player waypoint. And then when the player reaches this waypoint, those waypoints will both complete, and then the helicopter will continue to move here. So basically, the helicopter will stay up here until the player reaches the extraction point. Perhaps we want to move them a bit closer together, so just move the, whoops. And as you can see, I was accidentally in the synchronized mode, so now I'm trying to drag a synchronization line. So if I release now, I'll desynchronize them, and I believe I set this in one of the first tutorials. If you accidentally do that without releasing the left mouse button, simply switch to another mode using the F keys. So like F1 to switch to units, and the line will disappear, and you can release without breaking the synchronization. So switch to waypoints or units or whatever, and then drag the player a bit closer. And then when the helicopter reaches the extraction point, we want him to load the player's group. So select the move waypoint, and then go to waypoints, and then double click the player unit, and then change the type to load, and click OK. And then we want him to move back to here, so set another move waypoint up here, move. Okay, and obviously we when the helicopter reaches this position, we want the player to get in. So click the player's waypoint, or simply click on the player. Remember to hold down shift to select the player rather than the waypoint on top of him. So it's easier to just select the player's waypoint, and then set a get in waypoint on the helicopter. So double click on the helicopter, make it a get in, and click OK. Now the thing is that as soon as the player reaches this point, he will immediately get the get in waypoint. So even though the helicopter is still here and moving down to the player, the game will still say get in. We don't really want that. We want it to wait until the helicopter reaches the player, until the player is told to get in. So what we're going to do is that we're simply going to synchronize these two waypoints. So synchronize tool, and then synchronize the helicopter's move waypoint with the player's move waypoint. So now these two waypoints is synchronized, so the player will not get the next waypoint, and the helicopter will not get the next waypoint until these two waypoints has been completed. So basically, when the helicopter and the player has arrived, the player will get the the get-in waypoint. Hopefully that wasn't too confusing. Anyways, let's try it out, see if it works. So if we don't move, the helicopter should move either, except for that 1 meter perhaps that we made the first waypoint. Okay, so as you can see, the helicopter is completely still in air, and we get that waypoint right in front of us. So if we, and you can see our units spawn in the formation we specified in the first waypoint. So now if we move to this waypoint, it completes, and the synchronization should complete, and the helicopter should go forward as it does. And as you can see, our waypoint still says wait, because we wanted it to remain wait until the helicopter gets close, and then it should turn into a get-in. So once the helicopter gets here, we should get a get-in waypoint, hopefully. And there we go, get in.
Oh, board that chopper.
Roger.
See, there's another problem. The load waypoint doesn't work as I expected. It should work. It may have something to do with I'm using a beta that has some bugs. I don't know. It usually does work as far as I remember, at least. Anyway, this brings me to a point. Go to units and then double click on the map, and then go to empty objects, and then select the H invisible. So this is an invisible helipad, because when an AI lands, he will land on the closest helipad, if available, within 500 meters. So if you want him to land at a precise point, you can place an invisible helipad and he will land on that one. And that load waypoint really should make him wait for units to get in. I don't know why he doesn't. Let's try to place this helipoint and see if that makes a difference. If not, we'll issue a little scripting command, or invoke, or whatever. So move forward, and then wait and fast forward. If it doesn't work, we can. There's another thing that I think would work. So if this doesn't work, let's try that. Yeah, he's already turning around.
Oh, board that chopper.
Roger.
But he should actually come back now and then land on the helipad, if I'm not mistaken. It's not exactly what we want. Okay, it may be this beta, I don't know what's going on. Anyways, the problem is he's going back immediately rather than wait for us to get in. So I think what we're going to do is that we're going to go to Synchronize. If this already works for you, then perfect. But if it doesn't, go to the Synchronize edit mode, then synchronize the load from the helicopter. Zoom out again with the get in of the player, so that we synchronize the get in and load, so the load will not complete until the player has gotten into the aircraft. And then preview. Let's see if this works. I have absolutely no idea what's going on. So let's try one last thing. On the move waypoint of the helicopter, go to waypoints, double click it, and then in the on activation field, type, I believe, shit. Actually, hold hold down shift and then double click the helicopter and just give it a simple name like Heli, H-E-L-I, click OK, then go back to the move waypoint, double click it, and then type Heli, H-E-L-I, space, land, I think that should work, yes, and then quotes, get in, quotes, so heli, space, land, space, quotes, get in, with a space in between, and then a quote, and click OK, and then preview. Okay, so this seems to be working. He may take off immediately after he's landed. Hopefully he will not. But let's see. Yeah.
All board that chopper.
Roger.
So what you can do is simply order your units to get into the helicopter, and that's what I tried to do before when you just started going in concentric circles. I don't know why he doesn't want to pick up people. And
Waiting.
I've got a man too much.
Standing by. Waiting.
And there we go. So now he should fly back. And he does. We haven't made him land, so he will actually never land. But again, if you order units to get in and get out, the helicopter will automatically land.
3, 4, 5, 6. Disembark.
Roger. Ready. 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 Standing by.
And there we go. I hope this worked for you with all this, additional stuff. So hopefully it's just a bug in the beta that I'm using. Anyways, just to clarify, this command simply tells the heli to land, and the get in quotes tells it that it should hover above the ground, which you can see if you place the cursor inside the land command and press F1. You can see what it does. Forces a helicopter landing. The landing mode may be land, a complete stop. Get in, hovering very low for another unit to get in. Get out, hovering low for another unit to get out, or non-cancel landing. And then some examples, but I'm not gonna go into scripting more than I've done here. Anyways, a last example. Let's remove all this except for the player group, and I used shift delete there to delete everything I had selected, rather than having to hover the mouse over each individual and then hit delete or hold delete. Then we want to copy this group, so select it, Control C, move the cursor, Control V, then perhaps rotate it, move it up here, and make another copy, so Control V to insert, move it here, and then we want to add a waypoint for each one of those. So go to waypoints or F4, click around here, and select this unit, and click it next to the other waypoint, and the last unit, and click next to that waypoint. So they move, they kind of group together, and then actually let's move them a bit. So select all of them, rotate a bit, and place them like this. Perhaps move this down a bit and this down a bit, and then we want to place a few enemy units in here, so select units and then select up 4, and then Russia and men, and then just double click next to it and press enter. And I believe I said earlier that if you place a unit close to another unit, it'll automatically group to that unit, him being the leader. Okay, so what do we want to happen? Well, in this example, I want all these three groups to team up here, so wait here and then attack the enemy. So I'm just going to place waypoints for each unit, just seek and destroy, and then for the other group, seek and destroy, and for the last group, oops, not double click, just click, and seek and destroy. Just like this. And of course, just like before, as soon as you reach the waypoint, they will move in. So we want to synchronize them. So synchronize these two and these two, and actually let's move those waypoints around a bit, and these two, because we want this to wait for this and this. So we want them all to wait for each other, so we need these three lines so they're all synchronized. And we can move this back, which is just to to make it a bit easier to see which ones we had already synchronized, and then perhaps move some of the groups closer so they take a different amount of time to get there, and the player furthest away so we can see them actually wait for the player. Just a bit closer so we don't have to run a mile. Okay, so let's try that. And each group should move to those first waypoints, wait for the other groups, and then they should attack. So let's just wait here and see if they stop. So the first group has stopped. And the second group has almost stopped. Let me just fast forward. They're just getting into formation. So now they're pretty much just waiting for this group, so
Form file. All. Return to formation.
let's get going. And then as soon as we get to that waypoint, we'll attack. And there we go, seek and destroy.
Hi. I'm busy. 3 o'clock. Enemy man. 50 meters. All. Engage. Enemy man. Right. 50 meters.
Taking fire. Enemy man. 3 o'clock. 50 meters. Enemy man. 2 o'clock. 50 meters. I've got him. Need help.
5 is down. All. Engage.
Oh, he almost threw a grenade. Fuck. Oh well, you saw it work, so that's pretty much what I wanted to show you. And of course, you could do all sorts of stuff. So let me just remove a few of these, just so they're 2 in each group, just so they don't have to spend a lot of time getting into formation. And then we could double click this waypoint and change the timeout to 5 seconds, so that once we get there, they'll actually wait 5 seconds before attacking, so we get some time to recover from the run or whatever. Just fast forward a bit. And when we get to the waypoint, they should, or not. Let's change them all to 5 then.
Move 100 meters.
There we go. Okay. So apparently the timeout needs to be set on all of them or something. I thought it was just I thought it waited to the I thought it waited to complete the waypoint, but maybe it's just the time it waits to activate the script, the code in the on activation field. But it worked when they were all set to 5, so I'm not entirely sure what's going on. Anyway, you can play you can play around with that, and hopefully you'll be able to make some interesting stuff. Okay, just one last example. Let's remove the seek waypoint for everyone but the players group, and then only make the player seek and destroy, and then once the other groups get here, we can make them join the player. So waypoints, make sure that the unit of this group or his waypoint is selected, and then double click on the player and join. And the other one, select the unit or the waypoint, and then because we have a waypoint on top of the player, you have to hold down shift, then double click on the player and add a join waypoint and click OK. So now the groups will move here, and then when all the groups have arrived, these two groups will join the player, and then the player will be issued an order to seek and destroy. And let me just remove this timeout again. And preview. So they should wait. They don't actually join my group until I reach the waypoint as well, obviously because we've synchronized them. So now they're just waiting for me to get to the waypoint, and then they will join me.
Move.
Or should join me.
12 o'clock.
Whoa, like. Okay, I've run out of disk space, so I'll continue on this example in the next one. See you then.